Love Prevails Thursday wrap-up. Take 107.
So here we are, our last day in Nashville. We have been successful in our disrupting of the Connectional Table meeting at the General Board of Discipleship. Promises were made to us, but all LGBT people, Q folks, and our allies know that promises are always made to us, but that these promises are often broken. So we feel like we were able to deepen the level of conversation among the delegates to the Connectional Table, but really hope that they can live into what they said they were going to do now, and that's to be very mindful and intentional about LGBTQ inclusion. And the truth is, accountability is a big thing, so we don't need to wait and see what they are going to do, because we'll be back and we'll be holding their feet to the fire every time they meet.
Yeah, and Love Prevails has this strategy we're calling the 3D revolution: disclose, divest, disrupt. And when I teach social change at the Iowa School of Theology, we just talk about we need all the strategies together, right? Anything that you can do to disrupt business as usual doesn't mean some big disruption, right? It means anything that you can do that's out of your comfort zone that helps us to bring more awareness, to bring more reality to the suffering. We heard from a lot of the members of the Connectional Table that they didn't realize what pain people were in. And you can't imagine that at this point in time that they're not...
We're stunned by that.
We're stunned by that. Yeah. They just didn't understand the level of suffering and pain.
How can you be so isolated still today in 2013 and not understand the pain of LGBT people?
Right, and so... Thanks. Disruption, though, I mean, Love Prevails feels like we do bring the willingness and the gift of disruption when it's necessary, not disruption for disruption's sake. Because, I mean, we learned as soon as we arrived here that they were very much willing to tolerate our presence, right? And that actually turned into, there's a term in social change theory called repressive tolerance, where for the sake of us looking like we're inclusive, we're tolerant, we're democratic, we'll sort of welcome you, so long as, you only sort of go so far.
Stay on the margins.
And that turns into a form of repression. And so we felt like we needed to make our presence known in another way. And that disruption actually did break something open for the Connectional Table. And they talked about how at all of their committee meetings where they discuss the various sort of things that they're tasked with doing, that this conversation is always underneath everything that they're doing, but that they never really get to talk about it. It's sort of off limits. And no wonder why when we get to General Conference, every single time we have to kind of go back to square one with this disruptive stuff. And so we gave them the opportunity to have the conversations that most of them admitted they needed and wanted to have, but haven't been able to at this point. So disruption has its place. And there's so many. Telling the truth is disruptive. Preaching a sermon can be disruptive. There's different ways that we can think about that. So you just kind of want people to understand where we're coming from. But we also know that disruption can easily be sucked back into an institutional form, which is why we need to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, and there's a great line in Alice Walker's The Color Purple where Celie says, "Until you do right by me, everything you touch will fail." And I feel like until they acknowledge the ways that LGBTQ people have been excluded from the church and bring that front and center, every single thing they do will fail, because you cannot build the Church of Jesus Christ on the back of oppression and discrimination. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to give some shout-outs to people who made our visit here to Nashville possible. To our friends Beth and Jenny, who we love dearly and who housed us for a couple of days. To their neighbors John and Dean, who are lovely people and who housed us also for a couple of days. To the folks at Edgehill United Methodist Church and to Pastor Kay, who welcomed us and gave us space to meet and reduced our people to tears at the worship service. To our friend Haven Heron and our friends at Soul Force.
Shout out!
Who helped us do what we did this week. To folks, to Laura and the folks at Peniel Ridge who gave us retreat space. We have to remember Pastor Frank. I am remembering. Pastor Frank, our hearts are with you. We know what pain now continues for you. We're grateful for your prophetic ministry and for your faithfulness. You are a good and faithful servant. Shout out to all the folks who were in PA with Pastor Frank and his family and supporting all LGBTQ people around the country and the world. Who else are we shouting out to?
Shout out to Marianne Barclay. We know you have a decision coming up real soon, and you're in our hearts. MFSA, everybody, we're all in this together. We have to remember that we all have our gifts. We're a diverse movement, but that we have to learn how to work together in our diversity and in our difference. Let's see. So when we first went to the Council of Bishops meeting, as you may know, their initial response to us was, well, the police escorted us out of the building. And we think that they learned something from that, because when we arrived here, as I said, they welcomed us. And they said that Love Prevails was a United Methodist caucus.
And we take umbrage at that misrepresentation. We are not a caucus. We are a raucous.
Yeah, peace out. Love you guys.
That's a wrap.